that's a farewell to the Sainted Rose. Welcome to the Time Treadmill. I'm Ron. These are my sweaty thoughts about Doctor Who. I will admit that I softened to Rose Tyler quite a bit more this time through, and I did kind of tear up a bit at the big farewell scene, despite my fundamental issue with it. But I bear no ill will towards Billie Piper. I think the character of Rose is a good one. She made for a fantastic companion, and Russell T Davies did a great job writing for her throughout her 2 years on the series. I do have a fundamental problem with the implied romance between Rose and the Doctor. And that big tearful end where she finally says, "I love you," and he very clearly is about to say, "I love you" right back before the power of the supernova fades and the connection ends and he's not able to finish his sentence. I have a fundamental problem with a 900-year-old man running around romantically with a 19-year-old girl. As amazing as Rose Tyler is, and all of that, it's still just creepy. I mean, it may be legal, but I have trouble with a 40-year-old man running around with a 19-year-old girl. It's just a huge ick factor, and I have a hard time getting past that. And so for me, I'm happy that Rose has left the series and that entire aspect of the story is over and done with. And that does actually lead to some interesting dynamics in the next season. But I'll get to that actually in a couple of weeks, and I'll get to why for that in just a minute. A few more things to say about Doomsday. The big final battle between the Daleks and the Cybermen happens there in Torchwood Tower on Canary Wharf. And I will tell you that 9 years ago, when my wife and I visited the UK, we actually stayed one night at a hotel on Canary Wharf after our trip back from visiting Cardiff. My dear, sweet, patient wife really put up with a lot from me on that trip in visiting Doctor Who milestones and filming locations. It was a real treat to stand there at the base of Torchwood Tower and see the streets where the battle happened and all of that stuff. That was just great fun for me to geek out anyway. Story-wise, Doomsday does a great trick of finally pairing up the Pete's World Pete with Our World Jackie and having the two of them hit it off again. And the scene where they finally come face to face is magnificent. It feels honest and earned, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I liked the Daleks' use of Time Lord technology in the Genesis arc. Having a vehicle that turned out to be a Time Lord prison ship housing millions of Daleks was a fantastic plot turn and was well executed. And as Dalek stories go, I will say I actually did enjoy this one. I thought it was well done. And the introduction of the cult of Skaro is an intriguing bit of plot. Having 4 Daleks who actually have names, who are a secret organization that's placed above the Emperor, all of that is pretty cool. And that storyline plays out now for several years, right up through, I think, Victory of the Daleks is where all of that culminates. Unfortunately, before we get to that, we have to get through the absolutely atrocious Daleks Take Manhattan. But again, I'll get to that in a couple of weeks. So, although this story ends on a fantastic cliffhanger with the appearance of Catherine Tate in the TARDIS, which was a great sting of a cliffhanger leading into the Christmas story, I'm actually not proceeding on to the Christmas story tomorrow, because I'm watching all of these stories in air date order, which means starting tomorrow, I dive into the first season of Torchwood. And that's going to be a real huge change of gears, and I'll explain more about that tomorrow. But right at this point where I am in the viewing, this is arguably the pinnacle of the new golden age of Doctor Who, with the series having monstrous ratings, with there being multiple spin-offs. I'm watching Torchwood next, and that's going to lead directly into the Sarah Jane adventures before I get back to Doctor Who again, and So for a certain period of time, Doctor Who, or some form of it, was literally on the air year-round, with 4 months spent on Torchwood, Doctor Who, Sarah Jane Adventures, in a rotating fashion for a couple of years. It was not quite Marvel Cinematic Universe level of interconnectedness, but it really was, I think it can be argued, the pinnacle of modern-day Doctor Who. And that's what I'm at right now, and that makes me really jazzed. This is going to be an exciting couple of months as I get through this era of the program. Not that I'm ever not jazzed about any given era of the program. I'm a Doctor Who apologist, and I make no bones about it. I love every season of the show for various reasons. But this right now, this is a great moment in the show to be revisiting. And on that note, I'm going to call it a day, and I will be back tomorrow with the first episode of Torchwood and the return of Captain Jack Harkness. How cool is that? I'll see you tomorrow.